Hello and welcome to Sunday's edition of Wardy's Waffle. Before I get into the farm update and what we've been doing on the farm, last week, if you remember, I said I'll give you my thoughts on Red Tractor. Now, if you're on social media, and probably if you're not on social media, you'll have seen that this last week, it's been absolutely rife about Red Tractor and the problems with it. Now, as some of you will know, I'm on the NFU Council. I'm Lincolnshire's representative for that. And we had a big meeting earlier on this week, Monday and Tuesday, which I'll go into a little bit in a few minutes. But just before I get on to that, I've got a few notes here because Red Tractor's quite detailed. I wanted to just give you a sort of a heads up on what it's like. Quite a few you're saying the NFU own Red Tractor. They don't. That is wrong. It is a not-for-profit organisation made up of 6 company guarantors. Now, those 6 companies are the NFU, the AHDB, which stands for Agricultural and Horticultural Development Board, BRC, which is a British Retail Consortium who represent the retailers or the supermarkets, UFU, which is the Ulster Farmers Union, Dairy UK and NFU Scotland. And there is also the Food and Drink Federation act as a observer. Now, each of the company guarantors have reps that sit on the main board. Then there are sector boards as well, and those sector boards, there's a beef and lamb one, there's a dairy one, there's combinable crops and sugar beet, there's fresh produce, there's pigs and there's poultry. Then there are technical advisory committees, or TACs as they're known, for each of the sector boards. So you can see there's quite a big bunch of people here and organisations who are sort of controlling it, or who have a say in how it runs. Now, it goes back, the reason why it started was in 2000, the year 2000, there was BSE, there was salmonella, there was foot and mouth, a whole load of things going on. And there was a lack of public trust in how our homegrown food was and the safety of it. And so this is why it was designed then, or brought out then, but it wasn't called Red Tractor, it was called British Farm Standard. So it's going back quite a long while. Now, the key purpose of this was to reassure consumers that UK food and drink is produced safely and responsibly. So that's why the British Farm Standard was first brought out in 2000. But the trouble is now, what started out as a simple thing has turned into an absolute red tape nightmare, and with increased costs for virtually no return for the farmer. And producing food to the highest standard is not giving farmers a premium. Now, this is the biggest problem we've got, is that we think it should do, and lower quality imported produce sits on our supermarket shelves, and the supermarkets have far too much influence on running a Red Tractor, and all this is quite clearly wrong. So what's happened this week, or the last few weeks actually, it's been announced, but there's going to be lots of greening measures come in that we're going to have to adhere to eventually. Now, they're saying they are, sorry, not compulsory, they're saying they're voluntary at the minute, but as everything with Red Tractor, it very soon becomes compulsory. And this is called the Green Farm Commitment. And this is a prime example where the supermarkets are now starting to dictate what we have to do. And this is where the farmer, we have to jump through more costly hoops, which will benefit the retailer, but no financial gain going back to the farmer. And this is to do with carbon, where the supermarkets are saying that by 2030, they want to halve the carbon emissions and greenhouse emissions of the shopping basket, as it's called. The whole Red Tractor structure needs a complete overhaul, and it needs to deliver value to farmers. And there are so many things wrong with Red Tractor, and just 2 of them that come to mind. Mass balance. Now, this is quite a recent thing, where when we have an audit, we have to give Red Tractor details of what tons of produce, wheat, barley, whatever, we have left in store and what tons we've sold. That's absolutely nothing to do with Red Tractor. That's nothing to do with food safety and traceability. That is our concern. That is our private matter, what we have sold and what's left in store. And another area that is wrong is health and safety has been brought into Red Tractor last year. Now, health and safety is a massive issue. And in my eyes, it's too big an issue to be brought into Red Tractor. It's a separate thing that should not be part of Red Tractor. The auditors of Red Tractor who come into our farmer visitors are meant to look at our health and safety policy. It's huge when we have that, and I think it is too big an issue with all the farm accidents and deaths that's happening to have health and safety in Red Tractor. So going back to NFU Council, I'm a council delegate for Lincolnshire. I've been voted in to represent members' views in Lincolnshire, and I take those views to council. At the last meeting we had last week, we had a big discussion on Red Tractor, and I've never been in a meeting where there's been so many people who are really sharing one voice. And that's good, because we have to have change with Red Tractor. And a resolution was brought forward where NFU Council has called for an independent review of the governance of Red Tractor and the pausing of the Green Farm Commitment bolt-ons until that review has finished and proposals implemented. Now that was passed, which is great. And so this now starts a process where we have to look at Red Tractor and all that's wrong with it, because there's a huge amount wrong with it. And when I got back from this, I was so incensed about Red Tractor as we discussed it. A lot of people were venting their anger and feelings about it and getting my mind actually working on things I hadn't thought of. Anyway, I phoned my local grain merchant. I sell grain locally to a local sort of small merchant. And I said to him, I said, if I wasn't farm assured, I said, what discount would I get on my grain? And he said, the biggest problem you've got, Wardy, he said, is that it's not that you would have a discount. It said that you'd struggle to find a home for your produce. That is absolutely wrong that is the case. So where did we sleep into this sort of monopoly by Red Tractor, and how did we do it? It's wrong that we cannot sell our produce if we're not assured. It's quite clearly we should have a baseline non-assurance that gets you the market price, the futures price, and if you then go through these assurance schemes, you then get a premium on top of the baseline price. I'm going to give you another example. We're emptying our oilseed rape stores at the moment, and you'll see this in the update in a few minutes. And one of the lorry drivers came in on Thursday, and I spoke to him, and I said, oh, when you've tipped this load, where are you going? Well, all our rape, we store for ADM, this is a national merchant, and all our rape goes to Erith in Kent to be crushed at ADM's crush. So the lorry was going there, and he said when he tipped that, he was then heading across to Tilbury Docks, where a boat had come in with 46,000 tonnes of oilseed rape from abroad. And whether he said Poland, I can't quite remember, he said where it was from. And lo and behold, where's that going? That's going straight into Erith in Kent. But he said that when he gets the load and gets the paperwork, he said all he'll have is a stamp put on his paperwork, and it will say something like foreign grain or imported grain or foreign produce or something like that. That's all there is. There's no long traceability, a document, there's no sticker, there's nothing that like we have to go through with our grain. And then when it gets to Erith, it will be tipped in a hole, and apparently this tip says imported grain, but behind it, what happens, you don't know what happens, but suspect that it's all mixed in with our grain. Now this grain, this oilseed rape, it will be grown with neonics, it will be grown with lots of product we're banned from using, yet it'll end up being blended with our oilseed rape. Because of government policy, we are having to import a lot more oilseed rape because of cabbage stem flea beetle, and so the imports are grown to lower standards than our own rape, and it's mixed with it. And this is another thing that's wrong. And then the problem we've got is that Brexit as well has come into it. Now, I don't want to get this into Brexit because it's another huge topic, that is. But when Brexit came along, now I didn't vote for Brexit. I voted to stay in the EU. I'll actually put that out there now. But when Brexit came along, we was promised there'll be far less red tape and we'd have far more government support. But actually what's happened is the reverse. We have far more red tape and even less government support. And that is another big issue for farming in England and Wales and Scotland. Now, another thing we've got is that it's not just about Red Tractor. There's a whole load of things wrong with our food production system in the UK. And one big thing, and you've heard me mention this before, is food labelling. Why does or why can foreign produce come into this country, be put in a packet, and then being allowed to have the Union Jack on? It's deceiving the customer, it's deceiving the government to think that it's home-produced food, it's deceiving the supermarkets to think that it's home-produced food, it's deceiving everybody. But what it's doing is undercutting us, because quite clearly it's coming in, it's grown to lower standards, it's grown and produced with methods and systems and products that we're not allowed to use, and so therefore it's cheaper to grow. And so that is another thing that for me is really, really bad. And I just think imports as well. Why do we have all these imports come into this country, grown to lower standards of production than what we have? The whole system needs looking at. It's not just Red Tractor. Now, just going back to the whole point of this about Red Tractor, my view is it is not fit for purpose as it is at the minute. It's gone into a massively huge animal that it wasn't designed for. And the whole governance needs looking at from top to bottom. So this is why we've sort of, as a council, we've passed this resolution for an independent review to take place, which that is going to happen, and I hope it happens properly. And the pausing of the new greening bolt-ons, which again is huge. We must have this. We can't let the supermarkets go through with this and carry on going through with this without consulting us and just saying this is what we're going to do. We need to be part of this. We're not saying we don't need insurance, we need something, but we're not going to be rolled over by the supermarkets. And of course, until a review is finished and the recommendations implemented, this is all part of the process that this needs to happen. And as long as I have a voice at council and representing Lincolnshire farmers, I will do all I can to have an influence on the restructuring of Red Tractor, which is absolutely long overdue. And it is an absolute must, because at the minute, it is not fit for purpose. It is not doing what it was designed to do. It's simple as that. And I think if there are no changes, we then need to look at the next level of what we can do to make the retailers realise that we really do mean business. And if that means a mass walkout of Red Tractor, at the minute we don't want to do that, but if that's what it takes and another scheme set up, then that's what will have to be done. But at the minute, let's start this restructuring. Let's look at this whole governance thing within Red Tractor, see what we can sort out, because at the moment, it really needs to be looked at. It's not fit for purpose, and we need a whole new look at it and to get Red Tractor back onto the level that the farmers support it instead of just the retailers. So that's it on Red Tractor. I'll just pause there for a second because, as you've heard, it's quite detailed. In this update, two things I've already mentioned we're going to be looking at. One is the oilseed rape outtake, as it's called, of our store. We've got 2,850 tonnes in store for ADM. That started to go out this week. And the other thing we're looking at is the water and the rainfall and the floods, because we've had a huge amount here on the farm in Lincolnshire over the last couple of days. And this is another thing. I'm not going to get in another rant regarding the EA. Red Tractor's enough for one. A rant on Red Tractor's enough for one waffle. I'll look at the EA another day, but they are not fit for purpose. How on earth they can carry on doing what they're doing, let land flood, let food go underwater, let water companies pollute rivers and seas, and yet when a farmer does something minutely wrong, prosecute them, and yet they get away with murder themselves, is beyond me. Anyway, lack of maintenance is another thing that needs to look at, but I'll touch on this in another update, because this update is going to be too long and it's going to be all of a rant, which I don't want. Anyway, that's enough for me. Let's crack on with this update. We're going to be looking now at oilseed rape leaving our store and going down to Kent. Thanks very much for watching, and if you make it to the end, which I hope you do, it might be a bit longer than 20 minutes. I'll see how I get on, but if we see you at the end, we'll see you then. It's Thursday morning. We've got a lot of lorries lined up in the yard. We've got started to empty our oilseed rape sheds. It's always difficult to start when we're going over the panel. And then we've got to get the panel out, and then when it's wet, we don't like doing it when it's wet, but we've got 14 going out today, so we want to get these sheds emptied, so we decided to do it. It's not going to rain anymore today. That's that lorry full. Another lorry just backing into place. Ruben's just putting the brush on. We're going to brush this, try and get some of this water off, and it won't be long before we need to get those panels out. Just got the fans to take off the top of the tubes here, so I'm just going to get in the bucket to do that. It's safe here because of the heat. Now that's one of them off. Just got it in the bucket, just see there in the dark. And then we've got the other one to take off just across there. We have to have a string tied up to the ceiling, up to the roof, just to hold them and support them, because the weight of them, they do flop over. So there, this is the next one. You can see how they're leaning. It's just because the amount of tube that's out the ground, out the rape, I mean. That's it, that'll do, near enough. Now we'll undo the string first. I'm just at the top of the rape heat where we've just seen to take the fans off. You can just see here how difficult it is over the panels. Good job you've got a forklift with a telescopic boom. I think there's about 1,400 tonnes in this side, and there's another 1,400 tonnes there. Maybe it's a bit more here, maybe 1,500, I just can't remember. With 2,860 tonnes of oilseed rape in total. And then here we've got our wheat just there. And those marks are from the stirrer beam just there as it goes along and stirs the heap up. And now the little auger screws, you can just see them go right down to the floor. Just looking at this shed, new viewers might wonder what's the sheeting, you can see through it. I did explain it last harvest, I think, but new viewers, you can just see we've got what you call perforated sheeting that lets the air through but keeps the weather out. Really good, actually. It's like sort of a new style, I suppose, Yorkshire boarding, new style for cattle, crew yards. It lets the air in, but it's great here for airflow when you're drying this grain and cooling it, because there's a lot of heat in this shed. And with that perforated sheeting, it lets the heat out, distributes it, and helps the shed keep cool. Just looking here, these pedestals, you can get two types of pedestals. These are metal ones, and they go right to the floor. When we get them exposed, I'll show you the part at the bottom that's got perforated to let the air through. So those fans on the top suck the air out that way, look through the top and pull all the air from the oilseed rape, from the hot air from the oilseed rape, and cool it. But you can also get the plastic ones as well. Now, we did have plastic ones and got rid of them because they used to topple over a lot, but these metal ones, they get damaged. The minute you touch them, the top here, if it kinks in, the next one can't go in. And there's probably 2 or 3 in here right down under the heap, because this heap's 5.5 metres deep. So I'm not quite sure which is best. You can see that as well is leaning, so that's why we've got a bit of a rope right up to the ceiling just to support it. And there are the fans there as well at the back. That's another one backing up. I'm just going to roll these cables up from the fans, get those put out of the way. Lorry there just being sampled. And we keep a sample for our own use, so that if it gets to the other end, it's going down to Erith and in Kent. If it gets sampled down there and there's something wrong with it, at least we've got a sample to check. That's full. The driver's got a display here that says how many tonnes is on it. So it works a treat, that does, so you don't overload.
Morning.
Morning.
How are you?
You all right? Yeah, good, thank you. Good, thanks. So there's not a lot spilled out, because we managed to load probably 6 or 8 lorries over the top of the panels. So once we get inside the shed here, we have to get these pedestals out then. Just come down to look at some of the water. I can't believe how much water we've got. A couple of deer here having a look as well. Never seen this field so bad ever in my life. Just incredible. So this is the field that we had sugar beet on only a couple of weeks ago. Good lot standing underwater, and the lane here in front of me. I'm just going to back round and keep this video going if I can. Back up to this grass. I think it's the grass, just to show you. This is the beck as it's known, and this is what we were going to do out this year, going to clean it all out. Never seen it as full as this. There is a metre diameter pipe underneath where I'm sat at the moment. Huge amount of water going down there. This field is coming sugar beet, hopefully this next spring. all this land is drained, very well drained, porous filling, which means there's gravel above the drains. The drains are all a chain apart. A chain is an old terminology which is about 22 yards apart now. So all this is drained, all this water at this end of the field. We can just look at the weather station in a minute so you can see what we've had in the last day. You can see it all running off the field here. A lot of water all through here. That field there is planted with wheat. Look at the torrent coming off this field. Some of you will recognise where we are. There's a heap of tarmac road planings here. The water coming off this field. This is all cultivated, ready for sugar beet this next year. Astonishing, never seen water like this before. So you can just see a huge amount of rain we've had in the last 24 hours. This here is a screenshot of our weather station. I've just looked at it now. So since midnight last night, and we are now, I think, what are we now? 6 p.m, more or less dead on Friday evening. We've had 57 millimeters of rain on top of the 58 millimeters or so we had last week. So huge amount of rain that we've had. Got some pheasants in front of us here running about. I need to get if I can get past them. Yeah, massive amount of rain we've had. I've got water running here from my neighbour's land. You can just see here, that's my neighbour's fields just to the side. You can see water running through there onto us. You can just see the amount of water through there. And then just going around the corner here, I have never seen so much water on this land ever. Huge amount of water. And that is the A17 just in the distance. We've got a ditch here just in front of us. This is one of the dikes that Barry did out this winter. There's a main drain just comes into the corner just there from the field there on the right. Just look at that water, incredible. That is the field where we had the Capulet beans on our project. We'll give you an update on that next week. There's some deer again through there. So that's it for another Sunday's Wardy's Waffle. Thanks very much for watching. Just before we go, I just wanted to touch on the flood situation in the water. Yes, you've seen we have got some floods and some fields underwater, but it's nothing like the level that some farmers have got in some areas of the country. The areas and the depth of water, some villages have underneath gone underwater as well, with homes flooded, which must be awful. So we are thinking about you, because that must be really, really awful to have your home flooded. And also livestock as well. We know there is livestock being affected in some parts of the country, and Forage Aid, the charity that I helped co-found, is on standby to help supply forage, feed and bedding with that. We've been on standby in Scotland for the last 10 days because they've been flooded up there for a while, and we've been in talks with RSABI, which is the Royal Scottish Agricultural Benevolent Institute, and they are the charity up there that helps farmers in Scotland, so we're talking to them. Yeah, thanks very much for watching. I think there'll be a flood special update probably. I'll put one out maybe Monday, maybe Tuesday night, because I am going to visit some farms with Rhonda, my partner. Rhonda's the Lincolnshire County advisor for the NFU. So we are going to go around some of the affected farmers on Monday and talk to them, because it is horrendous what they're going through, what the Environment Agency haven't done. But there are some very, very angry farmers and residents of villages around at the moment. So we'll get to talk to some of those. So I'll put an update on that. Hopefully, I think it'll be before Wednesday, probably Monday, maybe Tuesday night. Anyway, thanks very much for watching this update, and we'll see you next time.